Now, class, picking up where we left off at, we have e, b to the 1/2 power divided by b to the 1/3. Now, whenever we have the same base divided by itself, we would take that base, which is b, and subtract the exponents. We have 1/2 minus 1/3. Now, we know we have to find the common denominator. We know the common denominator is 6, so this would be 3/6 minus 2/6. So this will end up with b to the 1/6 power. And that's the final answer for E. Now we go here to F. We have 25b to the negative 8, c to the negative 8, 35b to the negative 10, c to the negative 3. So we're going to go through, and first let's shift these negative exponents before we do any simplifying. So this b to the negative 10 will come to the top, and this b to the negative 9 will go to our denominator. And then c to the negative 8 will go to our denominator. And actually this b to the negative 9 will become positive 9. And then this c to the negative 3 will go in our numerator. So now 25 and 35, we know both has 5 in common. So that will leave us 5 over 7. B to the 10th over b to the 9th will leave us b to the 1st, or just b. C to the 3rd divided by c to the 8th. We know we would take c to the 3 minus 8, which would give us c to the negative 5. And we know that will go in our denominator as positive c to the 5th power. And this is the final answer. Now we go here to G. Now if you notice, we have a parenthesis. We have our big parenthesis here. We have a parenthesis on the inside. And all of this is squared. So now, let's take care of what's on the inside here. We know 6 divided by 3 is 2. So we know we will have 2. And then what we could do here is b and b squared. We know that will leave us a b in our denominator. And we'll bring down our c to the 5th. And inside our parentheses, we have b to the 3rd, c to the negative 2, all squared. Now, again, we will multiply here. So we will have 2b to the 3rd, c to the negative 2, all over bc to the 5th. And all of that is squared. Now, we know that c to the negative 2 will go down here with c to the 5th. So we will have 2b to the 3rd, all over. This will give us b c to the 7th. And that's squared. Now b to the 3rd divided by b will give us b to the 2nd power. So we have 2b to the 2nd power all over c to the 7th. And all of this is squared. So when we square everything here, we will have 4b to the 4th, c to the 14th. And that is the final answer. Now we come here to H. Now we have 25b to the 8th, c to the negative 6 to the 3/2 power. We have 7b to the negative 2 power, 2c to the 3rd to the negative 1. So in our numerator, I would take each of these terms to the 3/2 power. So we add 25 to the 3/2 power, b to the 8th to the 3/2 will give us b to the 24 over 2, and c to the negative 6 to the 3/2 will give us c to the negative 18 over 2. Now that's all divided by, we have 7b to the negative 2, and then here in this parenthesis, we could take both of these terms to the negative 1 power. So this would be 2 to the negative 1, c to the negative 3. Now 25 to the 3/2 power, if you put that in your calculator, that will give you 125. 24 over 2 is 12, so that would be b to the 12th. And negative 18 over 2 is negative 9, so it would be c to the negative 9. In our denominator, we still will have our 7b to the negative 2. 2 to the negative 1 is 1/2. And c to the negative 3, we'll just leave it as c to the negative 3. Now we're going to combine this denominator. So we have 125b to the 12th, c to the negative 9, all over. We have 7 times 1/2, which is 7 halves. And then we'll have b to the negative 2 and c to the negative 3. Now we need to scroll down a little bit here. Now, first thing I want to take care of, because I will take care of these numbers in just a second. Let's take care of these variables. 12 minus a negative 2 will give us b to the 14th power. C to the negative 9 divided by c to the negative 3. Negative 9 minus a negative 3 we know will give us a negative 6. So we know this will go in our denominator as c to the 6. Now we want to take care of these numbers here. This 125 divided by 7 halves. That's the same thing as saying 125 times 2 over 7, which will end up giving us 250 in our numerator all over 7. So this here is our final answer. Now we scroll down here to number 3. It says for g of x is equal to 5 times 27 to the x power, find the following by hand. Show all your work. So we have g of 2. So we substitute in x for 2. So we have g of 2 is equal to 5 times 27 to the second power. So we have g of 2 is equal to 5 times. Now we would take 27 to the second power in your calculator, which gives 729. So now we would take 5 times 729. So we have g of 2 is equal to 3,645. And that is your answer for A. Now we go to B. We take the same formula here. So we have g of negative 1/3 is equal to 5 times 27 to the negative 1/3 power. Now, we have g of negative 1/3 is equal to 5. Now we know 27 to the negative 1/3 power will give us 1 over 27 to the 1/3 power. Now when we take 27 to the 1/3 power, that will give us 3. So we have g of negative 1/3 is equal to 5 times 1/3. So this would be g of negative 1/3 is equal to 5/3. And that will be your final answer for B. Now, we come here to number 4. It says write the number in standard notation. Now, standard notation just means that we want to write this number the regular way we write numbers. So we have 4.4487 times 10 to the 7th power. We need to move this decimal 7 places to the right. So we have 44487. So that was 4 places. And we have to add 3 zeros here. And this is our final answer. Now we come here. We add 3.85 e to the negative 5. Now remember this 3.85, this e means times 10. And then this 5 is to the negative 5 power. So that means we will move this decimal 5 places to the left, and that would give us 0.000385. And that is our final answer. Now we have number 5. It says write in scientific notation. So the first thing we have to realize is the number that we have in front of the decimal, it must be 1 digit and it must be a number other than 0. So what we need to do is we'll put the decimal at the end here, since this is a whole number, and we know we will have to move this value up until we get to between the 5 and the 4. So it'll be 5.4 times 10. Now we have to determine the power. We have to move this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places. So it'd be 10 to the 7th power. So it'd be 5.4 times 10 to the 7th power. Now for B, we have negative 0.00897. So we need to move this decimal 1, 2, 3 places. So we had negative 8.97 times 10. Now we moved it to the right 3 places. So this would be to the negative 3 power. And that is the final answer for B. Now we scroll down here to number 6. It says, according to the Forbes Fiction 15 list of wealthy people, Scrooge McDuck has an estimated net worth of $33,500,000,000 in 2010. Write the value in scientific notation. So we know the decimal is going to be on the end here. And we know we're going to have to move it 3, 6, 9, 10 places. So we had 3.35 times 10 to the 10th power. And that is our final answer. Now we scroll down to 7 here. It says each of the graphs are of equations of the form y equals ab to the x. What can be stated about the value of a and b for each graph? Now first what we need to do, let's take a look at this graph here. We know that this a represents the y-intercept. If you look at this graph here, you notice that the y-intercept is in the negative area. It's not 0 or positive. So the first thing we should know is that our a is less than 0 based upon this graph here. Now if we look here at our b, now our b represents our slope. Now if you look here, our slope is going up here. So our slope is more so in the positive area. It's not at 0, but it's in between 0 and 1. So it's 0 is less than b, which is also less than 1. And that is our final answer for A. Now we come to B here. We look at B here. Let's take a look at our A. If you look at our A here, it crosses the y-axis where A is greater than 0. Next, if you look here at our B, you notice that we're going here with a positive slope and is also greater than 1. So it'll be B is greater than 1. And that is our final answer for B. Okay, class, for problem number 8, I took the liberty of filling in some of this data, but I'm going to explain it to you. First of all, when you substitute these values in for x, you will get these values for y, which is also our f of x. So we know y and f of x is the same thing. So you substitute in -2 for x, you'll end up with -1, and so on. Okay, now, our next step was we needed to graph this on this this graph here. So we plotted these points here, and you notice this goes into a curve. Of course, I'm not an artist, so it's not perfect, but you get the general idea. Okay, now the domain of f of x. So basically, they're asking you, is there any value that x cannot be? What are the values of x? You notice here x can be anything. If you notice, we have negative numbers, 0, and positive numbers for x. So we know that x can be anything. So that will go from negative infinity to infinity. And when I say anything, I'm mainly talking about real numbers. Now the range of f of x. Now if you notice here, we have a negative a. There's no way that this value here would ever be negative. So we would never have a positive answer. And this also would never equal 0. So it'll go from negative infinity up to, but not including 0. So that is our final answer. Now you could also look at that from the graph, because if you look at your y values here, which is your range, they never cross the x-axis, which would make y 0 or go into the positive area. Now we scroll down here to number 9. It says, find the exponential function y equals ab to the x that contains the points by hand. Give 3 decimal places. So here what we could do is, since we have our y-intercept, we know our a is 3 when we have our y-intercept. So now all we have to do is solve for b. So we could take this point here and substitute. So we would have our y here is 70. So we have 70 is equal to a is 3. We don't know what b is, and our x is 5. So we'll divide each side by 3. And we'll have 70 over 3 is equal to b to the 5th power. Now we have to take the 5th root of both sides.